Hello everybody at the North Tyneside Ukulele Festival. I'm Donna at Stop Uke Listen, and I wanted to do a very short, quick workshop as an introduction to movable chord shapes, because as an advanced or intermediate player you might want to start to expand your repertoire or just know what's going on further up the fret and sort of get an idea of what guitarists have been doing all of these times. Let's talk about guitar players. If you've ever watched a guitar player, you may see that they keep the same chord shape, and then they're kind of just up and down, sliding up and down the fret, the neck of the ukulele, the fretboard, and making different sounds. So they tend to use movable chord shapes all of the time. We as ukulele players, when we first start, we'll learn all of the chords based around the first 3 or 4 frets, and we're frantically changing all of our fingers all of the time. There's nothing wrong with that, it's a great exercise, but we tend not to meander too far up the fretboard until we start expanding it. But the good thing about movable chords is you can start to play with like melody notes which are further up the fretboard, and you can harmonise when you're jamming with people. Why do one C when you can do a different C, and really just start to explore and experiment with your ukulele. That's what sort of piqued my interest about 2 or 3 years into playing. So hopefully as more intermediate or advanced players, you're familiar now with all of like the beginners chord shapes, the C's, F, G7s, G's, D's, all of that sort of stuff based around the first 3 or 4 frets. What we're going to do is I'm going to take you through a little bit of the theory. I'm skipping and jumping, so if this is not familiar with you, please don't worry about it. You can go back and you can look it up, or just take it for granted that this is what I'm saying is true, okay? The notes, there's 12 notes in Western music, and the chords follow the same pattern, if you like. So if you look at your A string, which is always best to start at A, I suppose it's the beginning of the musical alphabet and the normal alphabet, you have your A string. You know that plucking the open A gives you the A note, okay? Now if I go up fret by fret, all of the notes are there. So if I go A, that's A sharp, B flat, they're the same note. I will put up a diagram above me so you can follow this through. Just, if you don't understand it, just take my word for it, it's right, okay? So that's A sharp, B flat, B, what good old C note, C sharp, D flat, D, D sharp, E flat, E, F, F sharp, G flat, G, G sharp, A flat, and finally A. This A is an octave higher than this A, okay, but it's still an A note. Now the B and the C and the E and the F are highlighted because you might note that there's sharps and flats between all the other notes, but between the B and the C there are no sharps or flats, so that's just something to highlight. If you want to look into that, there's lots of explanations out there. So let's start then and talk about movable chord shapes. We're going to use the A chord because we've started with the A note. So instead of making a normal A with these 2 fingers, as I would normally do, I want you to use your middle finger and your ring finger and place them on the positions of the A at the 1st and 2nd fret. So it should look like something like that. That's my normal A that we're used to doing, okay? Except we've got this finger loose. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this finger as a movable nut. This is your nut at the very top. I want you to place that finger behind the nut. Okay, that is going to be our first shape that we're going to move. So that's still an A because we're not touching any of the strings, okay? So that's what A. I want you to slide that up 1 fret to this shape. That there is an A sharp or a B flat, okay? Now normally I would make my B flat that shape where I bar just the bottom 2 strings, the A and the E string. But for this demonstration, I'm going to keep it as the full bar across all 4 strings, okay? So that is a B flat or an A sharp. You move it up 1 fret, you get the B note, the B chord rather, the B chord. Are you seeing the same sort of pattern from above? The B chord. Slide it up 1 fret, yes, you've guessed it, you've got a C. Now that is a perfectly valid C. You could use that C instead of your normal C if you wanted to do something a bit different, okay? And again, 1 more fret, C sharp, B flat, and again to your 5th fret where you're barring all of your 5th fret, that is a D chord. So there's a D chord that you can use, that you know the shape of. If you move it up another fret, that's D sharp, E flat, 1 more to the bar in the 7th fret, That's an E chord. Just one step up to an F chord. Okay, you're starting to get really high, it's starting to get a bit of a squeeze now. Okay, next fret, F sharp, G flat. Next is G. Oh, it's starting to get really high. G sharp, A flat, and finally an A. Okay, but that is a bit of a squeeze. Okay, but between there you've got a C chord at the 3rd fret, a D, and an E chord that you can use at the 5th and 7th fret. Okay, so that's one shape. Okay, that was a major shape, or a major shape. Now you can do this with closed chords. You'll notice that at all times I had my fingers on all 4 strings. It's a closed chord. I didn't have any open strings. Okay, that's why I like to use this bar shape to show that you're moving the note and it's all closed. So if you take another example, you can do this with 7ths and minors and all the different chords as long as they're closed chords. Okay, so if we take, for example, A7. Okay, normally I'd put this finger on to do an A7, but I want you to use your middle finger and put it on the 1st fret of the C string, A7, the one we know and love. Okay, now again I want you to bar behind the note with your 1st finger. Okay, so that is our movable A7, or our 7th shape. Okay, move it up 1 fret, you get B flat 7 or A sharp 7. It's usually B flat 7 it's called. Move it up again 1 fret, B7. Now you might recognise that B7 from like beginners. B7 is quite a common beginner's chord. Once more, C7. There's another C7 you can use. Are you seeing the same pattern? I don't want to go through them all this time. So if I skip 2 and go to the 5th fret, bar in the 5th fret, there's a D7, another D7. If I skip another 2, A7, and so on and so forth, all the way up. I hope you're seeing a pattern here. Yes, you know the shapes, and it's just about placement to give you different chords. Great stuff, okay? Now we could do also a minor. We'll do A minor, starting at A. If you made an A minor, you'd usually use your middle finger on the 2nd fret of your G string. Okay, but I want you this time to use your ring finger to put it on the 2nd fret of the G string and bar behind the note. This finger's going to get in the way. I'm not giving anybody, not being rude to anybody. That one's going to get in the way. I'll try and tuck it away, but I can't guarantee I'm going to get clean sounds, okay? So that is your A minor shape. If you slide it up, let's just slide it up 2. Oh, there's B minor. We know B minor. B minor is quite a beginner's / intermediate chord. So there's B minor. Once more, there's a C minor. 2 more to the 5th fret. There's a D minor, a different D minor. So if you're following that pattern, you can start to throw in a different chord. So if you're jamming with a group, instead of playing C like that, play C like that. If you want to play E7 differently, it adds layers and harmonising, and in group sessions especially, you don't have to worry, because what you do is it's just experimenting when really nobody else can hear you. Or play it at home as well. It's excellent, and you can actually pick out, as I say, a lot of melody notes are higher up the fret, especially on the A and the E strings, and this might give you the ability to access those melody notes if you want to do something a bit different. Okay, now let's talk about, as I said, all of those are barred. I showed you the barred versions. You can do it with the more awkward and more finicky chords. So if you are thinking about G, for example, that's how we usually play G. You know how we will play G, the triangle shape, 3 fingers. Now if you wanted to play an A, the same rule applies. You'd move it up 2 frets to the 4th fret, but you have to close that 2nd fret G string, okay? It has to be a closed chord. That's really awkward. I certainly can't do it barring them. I certainly can't do it barring them. So if I'm making a G to A, you have to close that chord. You can use your thumb, or you can cheat and just play the bottom 3 strings. Miss the G string out, play the bottom 3 strings. And I know a few professional players who've confessed to that. There's nothing wrong with that. You can actually just play the bottom 3 strings. Okay, so as I say, the other chord shapes, experiment with the other chord shapes. You know, your A, your B's, D's and E's. You know, E is always a tough one. But again, that is a closed chord because you're pressing on all 4 strings. and you can actually move that up and down. That's an E, F, okay? So it applies to all of the chords across the whole spectrum. What I suggest you do is just sit, play and experiment and add one or two to a song you know and love and don't have to really think about what you're doing. And when you see a C, play a different C. If you see an E7 or a D7, play a different one. Play a different A minor, and just really try it and expand it. But that's the theory, a little bit of an introduction, a quick whip round the idea behind movable chords. Thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed that. And yeah, thank you very much for letting us take part in the festival, and I hope you've enjoyed this workshop. Thank you very much. Bye.